welcome to Wild Horse Webinar. Today, our guest is Mary Miller Jordan, who I love, who has I Am Heard Sanctuary in the Carolinas. She's going to talk to us a little bit today about what she does, but then we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the things that we're doing together and kind of our hopes for where things are heading. And I know you have a big event coming, so we'll have you talk about that too. So, hi, Mary. Welcome to Wild Horse Webinar.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this. Um, so I founded a Mustang Sanctuary back in 2015 after becoming deeply immersed in the wild horses through competing in the Mustang Makeovers years prior. And basically, I ended up with a complete handful of wild horses that I was dearly in love with and did not want to part with, but wanted to find other ways to create a life with them and support more wild horses. Because one thing I found when I dove into my journey with the Mustangs was that one, there are obviously so many out there in need. Two, there's a giant lack of awareness, ability in the people that would love to give them homes. The people maybe that had the abilities to support some of the difficulties that some of the wild horses have. I mean, they're all types, right? We know that. Some of them are like puppy dogs and easier than many domestics, but some of them can be really tricky and you kind of don't know till you get into it. You don't know till you may be in the relationship with the horse for a few weeks before something comes up and you're like, oh, okay, here's a thing. And it can be a really big thing because trauma sets up different ways in the body, right? So I just really realized that there was a huge need for people to be able to actually know what they were getting into and hopefully create situations that where when somebody adopts a Mustang, it really is a happy ever after ending for the horse and the human. So one of the ways that we're supporting that is through our the event you pointed to. We have a celebration of the horse-human relationship equine expo that this will be our third annual one, and it's just amazing the way that's growing. We're now 3 days. We were 2 days last year, but it's 3 days packed with clinicians that are coming in from all across the country. One is Stephanie Lindsay, that was just one of your Wild Horse listeners for the Colorado event. She's amazing, known her for ages. And it's not just for Mustangs, but it's for anyone that really wants to learn to listen better to their horses, to their horse partners, and therefore, have a better relationship for both the horse and the human. So we've got all sorts of things from connecting at liberty to certain types of tricks that are also really supportive for the relationship, not just to do a fun trick, and really focusing on the subtleties in communication. That it can be really exciting to see the fun wow factor things that can be done, and we do get to share that too. We have an evening show Saturday night, and so there is that piece. But it's the little stuff that builds up to the big stuff. It's the little tiny subtle things. It's stuff that you wouldn't even realize is so important that builds to that wow factor stuff. And so we want to share the inspiration, the wow factor piece, but then we want to show you guys really how you're going to get there, or at least some of the steps to getting there. So that's what it's all about. And and I'm grateful to be speaking with you. So I'll pass it back over.
Well, you talk a little bit about what we did last weekend, which was incredible with Pat Craig. His sanctuary up in, or the refuge, the Wild Horse
Mm-hmm.
Refuge up in Craig, Colorado, is 30,000 acres. And it is a trek to get out there, but it is so inspiring to see what he's building there and how he can support all of the other missions going on around the country. I feel like he's going to end up being kind of like a really good hub for everybody to help get some of their support and partnerships. But we did 9 yearlings, 4 of them, no, wait, 5 now are in our spoken for. And then the other four, I think Taryn's going to bring two because Taryn Hillman was there. I think two are going to come back to us next April
Okay.
at the Equine Affair
Oh,
because
great.
these are little horses that we have stories already started with.
Mm-hmm.
So continuing their story kind of helps to highlight instead of just having somebody from pick up a horse that we don't know what the backstory is. We know right now where all these little babies came from and what they're doing and where they're going and who
And I
helped.
think that's part of what draws the public to these horses is the story of the wild horse. And it's romantic and it's captivating and we fall in love. And so but then the other piece is sometimes then you end up with a wild horse that maybe you're not really capable of supporting. So if you can I love your idea of having the fosters stay for even longer than, the little 3 day thing is better than nothing, but it's such a small period of time. But to have them stay and then show up at Equine Affair after they've been with that trainer for, almost at least half a year, 6 months. And then you've got the story that you're sharing along the way so people can fall in love. And then you have a little horse that's actually has the support and the knowledge to go home with somebody. I think it's
Oh,
brilliant.
Taryn did an amazing job because she took care of those baby horses when they all got picked up
Okay.
from the Delta holding pen.
Mm-hmm.
And so Pat sent a truck and trailer and they got all picked up at Delta because there were
Mm-hmm.
60 yearlings that were
At
all
Delta.
sale authority at
Oh,
Delta.
wow. Uh-huh.
So that gives us another conversation on why
Yeah.
would yearlings be sale authority. But 60 of those yearlings and we got 13 of them total out of that pen. The extra ones already were spoken for and had adopters. But the nine that we used out of all of those horses, we had two horses. One was an older one that went, and one of our yearlings was a reassignment horse. The
Mm-hmm.
rest were sale authority. And so we picked up those little horses. They went to Terrence for 2.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Taryn took care of them, didn't try to gentle them except for her reassignment horse because I needed her to be able to lead that horse around at the event.
Mm-hmm.
But they got taken care of so well, and the stories got started and got
Mm-hmm.
followed, and people were engaged because the whole there was a whole wild horse advocacy group that had paid to foster them at Terrence.
Mm-hmm.
So it brought the advocacy group into working with us with the education piece.
Mm-hmm.
And that's again, you and I've talked a lot about how that is the most important thing is the education. You
Mm-hmm.
can't load a stick of dynamite in a family's car and tell them don't get hurt. You
Mm-hmm.
have to give people tools. People have to have some sort of way to how do I get to my little horse? And so that's what we're just trying to do is keep educating and educating and
Well, and I
educating.
think maybe people that are listening to this could be thinking, because I think there's different ways people can support. And I think realizing maybe there's someone listening that they're never going to actually adopt a yearling, a Mustang themselves. Right, but maybe they would be willing to, as you spoke to, sponsor something, because I think there could be a bridge built between what you guys have started with the 3 day gentling piece to then now a trainer is going to keep the horse for 6 months, which personally is what I'm loving, like though, because I just feel like those horses have such a better shot at really having the knowledge they need to have.
Yeah,
But then who's going to pay that? I mean, a non-pro, we're the ones absorbing these horses. I have two, from the event last year, and I love them. I mean, but I love all of them. That's my problem, right? So, but I mean, I couldn't just jump in and say, oh yeah, Lisa, let's do another one, because I can't keep stacking them up. So you've
right.
got to have a way. So I think it's a really good place for someone that isn't necessarily able or willing or wants to actually be hands on. They can sponsor one of these horses for their extended education, like one of the ones that she has right now that's going to come to Ohio. Someone could be sponsoring, maybe they are. I don't know.
We already have a piece of that. So we
Yay!
have a family that it was a husband and wife that as I started to talk to them at the event, they have a granddaughter that they want to get involved in horses, but they don't have a place. I said, well, you can think about adopting the horse, sending it right with any of our gentlers,
Oh,
any
yeah.
of our
Yeah.
trainers,
That's
and let
better
that
anyway.
training continue. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're part of your little horse's story as it goes
Mm-hmm.
along. And then as it's ready for your daughter or your granddaughter, what I found I went 2 weeks ago to a working equitation show in the middle of Kansas, out in the middle of nowhere, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
I have an interview that I posted up with the lady who runs the organization. She also kind of heads up the working equitation group in the area.
Mm-hmm.
But we were at her facility, beautiful, out in the middle of the country. She had this little working equitation show set up. There were probably maybe 20 horses total for the working eq. But this is how, little shows. I mean, this is how I went when I started riding. You go to little starter shows, but this was a recognized show. They had the ground jury there. They had the crew there. Um, and I went there to go see one of my Lusitano babies who's competing with a young rider. And he's out there and he's gorgeous. He looks like Fabio. He's a big buckskin. And then somebody kept saying, "Tell Lisa about the Mustangs. Tell Lisa about the Mustangs." So the lady who runs the place was out there competing on her little Mustang. She was in her, maybe mid 70s, but that is what she teaches all of her students. The majority of the other horses out there competing were little Mustangs. She's very close to Hutchinson, so she goes and gets the Hutchinson horses.
Mm-hmm.
She did a beautiful little interview with me with her wild
Oh,
horses
I
that,
love that.
and she brings them in, and this is what her youth riders start with. And maybe to go to a world level, they want to look up to having a Lusitano, but quite frankly, right now there's two
What
Mustangs
about the
competing at.
Kiger that's
I know.
overseas? Like, what about
What about
yeah,
that
there's no
cute
step
little
up horse from the Mustang.
Right, right, right. But not anymore, because now we're taking those Mustangs and there's a little reservation horse that's there that's
Cool,
competing. So two Mustangs
cool.
went to Spain to compete for
Mm-hmm.
the international competition.
Mm-hmm.
So but it was so cool to see everybody there. Kind of all those Iberian horses are the
Mm-hmm.
ones that excel.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like thinking of you the whole time I'm there. I'm like, oh my God, this is so
That's
cool.
wonderful. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and I think that's along the lines of what the makeovers originally, the intention was to encourage and give incentive for trainers that were capable of bringing the horses along to put their time and efforts into a horse that maybe some of them wouldn't normally be giving their time to. And because there was a lot of money in the makeovers, there used to be, and that was part of it, was like incentive to help develop a horse to the upper level, or be competitive in a sport, so that people can see that there's horses out there that are Mustangs that are very competent to do a lot of these different disciplines. And I think now we're starting to see that. I mean, when I got into Mustangs, in 2010, when I did my very first Mustang makeover, there was nobody in the entire state of North Carolina that was doing the one that I was doing. I wasn't the first one to have done one in North Carolina, but when I did this, it was the first year they did the Supreme Extreme Mustang Makeover, which was the one where we got to adopt our horses up front, which was my draw, because you know how I fall in love with everything, and I already knew that about myself. So no auction for me, right? So I've been like that this whole time. So that first Mustang I adopted up front, and that makeover, it was the first one they did crazy amounts of money. It was 50,000 to win the whole thing, 100,000 across the board. And people from all across the country, but not a single person in North Carolina, not many people on the East Coast. And now there's all these people in all the
Right,
states, many in North
right.
Carolina, that have done all these different makeovers. So now I kind of feel the tables have turned. There's still populations that don't realize Mustangs can do these things, but what I'm seeing is people do see they can do these things,
Right.
and they want the little special horse that has the story, that hopefully has the photo in the wild, that feels
Yep.
romantic. But then they jump and get something, and they aren't really prepared or capable, or they don't know what they're getting into, to bring them to the place they think they can be, and they see the $125 or $25 price tag. And so I think that middle piece, which is what you're working on and constantly developing it, that's what's needed, the education, not just for the people but for the horses, because you
Right.
can teach someone to do something, but until it's in your body, I mean, you need a professional. Some of these Mustangs really do need someone that
Yes.
really knows what they're doing to help them.
Yes.
Some of them are going to be able to do it with anybody, but not all of them.
Right. Right. And Mary Kitzmiller, this event, took
Hmm.
her little horse home
I love
because
that.
as we're standing
Woman
there
after my own
and
heart.
they were moving the horses around,
Yeah.
this little horse moved like a, what was his name? Stormcat. What was the really,
Oh, cat. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. And
oh
that's
my
right, her
gosh.
cup of
I mean, I
tea,
still have chills. And
ranch horse stuff.
Mary just kind of looked
Oh,
up.
she's like, oh gosh.
Oh yeah. And so she spoke, her focus now is on ranch work. And
Uh-huh.
so
Uh-huh.
this
I'm sure
baby
that
is
got her
going to be
attention.
her
I
step
love it.
up. And the other person who took their horse home was George,
Oh,
because
George took his? I didn't know George did. The old
George
pinto
took
that was so
his.
sweet.
There was such a bromance happening. He's already that little horse, and I'm sure George will again train him up to move him
Oh,
along.
yeah.
But
That's wonderful.
George and Wyatt were like, oh my gosh,
Oh,
it was too cute. It was like it was a story. When they
that
pulled
was a story.
those
Yeah.
tag, because I really shook it up for them to pull. When he got that little horse, I was so happy because he was the perfect person for Wyatt.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
but yeah, so I look at back from the first film festival I did, which was in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first documentaries I had in it on wild horses was
Oh,
we had
yeah.
Unbranded, but we
Oh,
also had
unbranded. Okay.
Saving America's Wild Horses. So
What
we
about
had
the wild horse, the one that Wileen and them were in that was ages, that was a feature of
I
the
had
makeover?
that one too. I
Yeah.
had that one too. But you talk about $50,000 for a prize. That that's nothing compared to what the jumpers and the dressage people are
Oh, well,
getting.
that's
So,
true.
when you look at that, so I think the bigger that this we get this wild horse world, the more the sponsors will take notice. And I really think the sponsors really should be taking more notice because there's a whole heck of a lot more buying power at the bottom of the pyramid in the horse world than there is at the very teeny tiny top.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people out there riding in the back part of Kansas or in Colorado or the East Coast. That's one thing that's cool for me is going all the way across the country. Like we just did the event in California, and then I went and did the event with you in North
Hmm.
Carolina, and now I was in Colorado and Kansas. Interconnecting and seeing all of these people in other places doing
Hmm.
this incredible stuff with these horses. And it's how it's grown from my very first
Hmm.
time. And when we got your first documentary piece that Ivy had done,
That's right. Yeah.
that was, my God, that had to have been eight, maybe,
2017 or 18, something like that.
yeah, it was a long time ago. But
Hmm.
that the storytelling, I think, is what is connecting
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
to these horses
Yeah.
kind of better than any of the other breeds of horses.
Hmm.
Something about the wild horses, and you would have been blown away at that film opening for Julianne's and Lisanne's documentary, the 5,000 Mile 5,000 Mustang. 2 sold out theaters. It
Mm.
was overwhelming, and people crying as they're watching her go across the country. So I just think the storytelling needs to continue. We need to keep doing. I loved your 2 sisters,
Oh,
the
and they're
documentary.
thriving. I mean, they're
And
part of
that
our
film, I
sanctuary.
love that film. It was one of my favorites ever into the festival because it was told from your heart and it was filmed from your heart.
Yeah.
And so that's another one we're going to have to start walking out and rotating back in, I think.
Oh, I don't know. So many creations over the years, right?
Yeah.
It feels like lifetimes ago, but the horses are thriving, and that's what it's all about. So, yeah.
So besides your show, what's on the horizon
Well,
for Mary
something
Miller
else
Jordan?
I thought about just in thinking how people, because I don't know what your audience is that tunes into these things, but I feel like it must be people that do feel a connection to the story and certainly a connection to these wild horses. And we all have, there's so many that feel such a direct connection just in, I almost want to say ownership, but from that I mean it's very personal. It's a
Mhm.
personal connection to the horses, and I think another thing that is in supporting the events that you believe in. I mean, I know you guys. I mean, I guess the Wild Horse Refuge is a big supporter, but you have others that support in the ways they can. I mean, I hope people realize that even if they only have $100 to throw at something or $5, like it helps, and these different events really are made possible in part, sometimes in whole, by those sponsors. And our celebration, I mean, we definitely need sponsors. And there's another event involved in coming up, the Horses and Humans Research Foundation. I've
Yes.
become very involved with them. They're amazing.
Pebbles.
They have their conference coming up in February, and I know they are actively looking for sponsorships for that as well. And there's even a unique horse fair day that I'm going to be bringing the Mustangs down for. It kind of opens the conference, and we're still working on exactly what that's going to look like. But it's going to be really cool. I mean, they have people coming in that have been doing a lot of research with different types of sensors that the horse and the rider and then the trainer are all wearing, so we can really monitor how the horse is feeling as they're going through things. There's so much more awareness and intention being put on the horse's experience of our training these days rather than just getting it done. How are they feeling as they're learning things? Because we're finding that's actually important. It
Yes.
actually makes a difference in how the information moves into the brain if the horse is in a place where they're able to feel safe enough to see the information. As when we're in a state of something happening and we don't feel safe, you can't learn. You just go to what you know and you grab a hold of that like a lifeline, and the horses do too.
One
So,
of the
yeah.
comments that one of the comments that the lady made when I was interviewing her in Kansas,
Hmm.
they start all their Mustangs out bitless and bareback with all
Hmm.
of their young riders, with all of her students, because her comment was, well, when you put that piece of metal in their mouth, that's all they can think about. And now
Mm.
we even have the FEI considering changing the rules for upper level riders to be able to just work in a snaffle. And hopefully then the next step is bitless if they want to.
Well,
So
yeah, there's so many conversations, and even the flip side of that, you put a bit in a horse's mouth, and at first it's all they can think about. But if it's a bit that's comfortable, and I actually do most of my stuff without a bridle, so this isn't to try to, say, oh, bits are wonder. I'm not. But what I'm saying is, when I think about the people that really start horses in a bridle and do it the way it can be done, they don't touch that thing until it's not a thing for the horse. They don't put it on and then start pulling the horse's face around. The horse carries it, they get used to it, they get comfortable with it, and then it's used as a refinement piece. So I think it's so much more than being able to say the specific tool. It's all in. It's the horse's experience of the tool, which comes back to how we're utilizing the tool, and that's where it's really cool to start looking at these sensors. They're looking at heart rate, they're looking at the horse's respiratory rate, they're testing cortisol cortisol, they're doing mouth swabs, they're doing all these different ways of being able to use science to see what is the horse's experience. And then, of course, we can feel what the horse's experience is too, right? Like, we're not bypassing intuition. We're just giving these solid scientific things to actually affirm intuition, to be able to help us say, oh yeah, actually I was right. Like, I can lean into that. I can trust myself. And so that's the conversation that is blossoming, that is going to be had live at the Horses and Humans
Right.
Research Foundation in February down in Florida. So not only I would just want people to be aware of that and be thinking about attending, anyone can come down and attend. It's a really fun hotel that it's at, and then you drive out to the location where the horse fair day is. Dr. Steve Peters is going to be there doing a clinic as well. So anyway, that's a whole conversation of itself, but I'm wanting people to think about how they can support these things. You can sponsor that event if you can't attend, to help us bring this information to the public.
Well, it's so cool seeing how all of the awareness is changing. Like, even talking to the new executive director from um, Equus Foundation, Karen Bump, and of
Yes, she's
course,
amazing.
of oh, she's amazing. Of course, Pebbles and Lynn Thomas with Horses for Mental Health. These organizations now are understanding the importance of what kind of we've known.
Hmm.
And Lynn was at the event this weekend, and I asked her after we did one of the panels on horses and mental health, and Amanda Held was there. It was a beautiful panel.
Mm.
I said, "Aren't you proud of what's happened?" Because I remember being one of the first people taking one of their first EGALA classes when they out in Utah. Oh my
Mm.
gosh, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't even remember when it was, but when people didn't even realize how much horses could help and how it's connected. We knew,
Mm.
but having to get that research, and that's where Horses and Research, Human Research Foundation, and what Pebbles is doing and what you're doing. I was blown away watching you with your sensor at the event in June.
That
You
was pretty
and
amazing how
Magic.
Magic was over there doing stuff
Yes.
behind my back. And I was like, yeah, it was cool. It's fun
But
to
but
explore.
that's what it takes. It takes the research and the
Hmm.
numbers to bring the rest of the community into the conversation.
Well, and
But
it's just fascinating to be able to look at something that you can't argue with. You know, we can say, "Oh, I feel this and I feel this," and I mean that's the truest of true. I mean, truly it is. And our human brains, we want to look at 2 plus 2 is 4. You cannot argue with that. And so it can be really simple things, but to watch, we did this is so fascinating, and I can say it really quickly. We did a little study with Abe, with my old Mustang Abe, and he has had such trauma around tiny noises close to his body. Okay, not big whips cracking around him, not gunshots in the distance, little bitty noise like a cookie wrapper that gets close to him. The classic plastic bag terror of horse. He has that times a million, and then yet in every other way, he's like this walking hug and just wants to snuggle with you. So it's been this interesting thing figuring him out. And so what I ended up doing is I really shifted to pure positive reinforcement, because it totally empowers him. He never, when he sees the thing that scares him, he knows I am not going to touch him with that thing. He gets to touch that thing himself. So he's empowered, and we've entered a conversation like that. So we're doing the thing with the heart rate monitor, and that's the thing we're looking at, is heart rate. And so we get a baseline, and his baseline just kind of hanging out, it's lower 50s. Okay, he's munching on grass and just chill. Okay, I bring out the scary noise, which I've used a paddle, which I've found that is commonly used to move wild horses in the holding facilities. So for whatever
electric
reason,
piano.
it really, right, it has little pebbles in it, and it makes a really loud noise. And so it's a way that they've got to move them somehow, but, and what for, I don't know why one horse, it would stick with them different than it does another. We're the same way. We can both have the same experience, and one person, it's like highly traumatic, and another one. So whatever that is, nature, nurture, but it is. So it's a big deal for him. And that's really all that matters is he says it's a big deal. So it's a big deal. So I use this paddle and I make the noise with it. Well, as soon as he hears the noise, his heart rate jumps up to, 60s, pushing 70. And so then I start entering into our conversation. And this was the really cool part because as soon as he recognized that we were going to have the conversation that he knew about, it wasn't a new conversation. The paddle was somewhat new, but we had had this conversation many times before. So it was a neural pathway in his brain that he was very familiar with. This brings you to Dr. Peter's stuff that you all need to go research and attend his clinics. But this was a pattern. This was a neural pathway that was very established. So he had somewhere to go, and that was important. So as soon as he starts traveling down that neural pathway, his heart rate immediately drops to all the way back to baseline, which was fascinating. That in and of itself would have been enough, but it kept going. So as we begin the conversation, so now we're past the intersection of where we entered the conversation. Intersection of entering the conversation brought his heart back to baseline. Now we're in the conversation. As we're in the conversation, his heart rate drops even more so. Now he's below baseline. He's dropping into the 40s, all the way down to low 40s. This is lower than his heart rate is when he's just chill. So to me, what that points to is being in the zone, right? When we go to that place, single pointed meditation, you're so focused and that's how he was, because we do this thing where I hold the noise next to his shoulder and then he targets it with his shoulder when he's ready. So anyway, it took something that he and I, a conversation we had many times, and I knew it was working. I could feel it. I could see it in my body, feel it in my body. But then to be able to show his heart rate mirror what I knew was true was kind of mind blowing. So that's the type of stuff we're going to be doing.
Very cool. Very, very cool. See, and so again, 10, 20 years ago, this conversation would have been laughed at.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. We were way too tough back then. Way too tough for this stuff back then.
Right. But now the entire industry knows that this is where the entire industry, I'm talking
the entire horse industry is going here, like it or not. The whole social license to operate, we're all under that.
Right. And so to me, I love being able to share that with more people. Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing I love more than sharing with people how great these horses are, but also how there's all these people out there working together to educate the world that it's more than just that the horse is the answer. Literally, the horse is the answer. And we can make people healthier physically, mentally through the horse. I love the work that like you do or that Rupert does with showing how that connection with the horse. It doesn't have to be in the tack. It can be on the ground. You don't have to have that.
That's another new piece that's coming too, right? Is how much we're as a collective accepting, embracing all the different ways we can be with horses. And it's becoming, there was a time in my life where I would have felt weird or wrong to have so many horses surrounding me and so few of them that I sit on. That would have seemed, now it's just, well, why do I need to sit on that one? And we're a sanctuary, but regardless, it's just a new time, a new day. And there's so many ways we can be with horses.
Right. It's one of those things that just makes my heart happy to be part of this movement and seeing things happen and help the movement along. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the big things.
You're certainly showing up everywhere. You're just everywhere all the time.
We've got to keep the magic going, Mary.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, if somebody asks me, like, when they ask us to go up to Massachusetts, because I really feel that we've got a good relationship going with Equine Affair in Ohio, taking it to Massachusetts, I'll be able to have our same big panel, because I think that big panel discussion is very important for the general public to know from point A to point B and what are all the pieces with the horses. That's why on our website we have, no matter where you're at in the country, you can find a trainer that can help you. And that's something that the other organizations should have been doing all the way along. It shouldn't have been a big secret. I mean, you should have been able to find help. If you were in Kansas or you were in Florida, you should have been able to not be, if you're not in the silo, you should be able to still find help. And this is what I think the silo is getting broken down for in the wild horse world. And so, in order to help people find people like you and other trainers, somebody's got to be out there doing that piece of it. So that's what we get to do. But in Massachusetts, what we're going to do is since we don't have a facility to do the training, we'll do a foster outreach to people in the area. Hopefully at least 60 days on a sale authority horse, bring it back and be behind our group, whether you're working them in hand on the ground. If everybody just got a sale authority horse and taught it how to do classical work in hand, that'd be a year's worth of training.
Oh yeah, I
in
think
ground.
that's the piece is just somehow to give people incentive to do a year's worth of training. Like those are the
Yes.
magic words to me. Just a year's worth of training. And then that
Yes.
horse really has tools. Because
He's
otherwise,
set
how the
up
heck
to
are they
be
supposed to
successful.
understand us? We don't make any sense.
Right. We don't speak their language. They don't speak our language. We have
They
to
need
build
help.
our language skills together.
And that
So,
length of time gives that horse and that person time to actually figure out what all needs to be supported. It's things like this little horse Abe, the first couple days before a little noise was introduced, I didn't even know this aspect of him existed, it was so different because most horses, if they're reactive, they're reactive. You know it. He just didn't feel like a reactive horse, which he's not. It's not who he is. It is absolutely not his true nature. But when he flips a switch and goes to this place, he strikes, he is coming at it and it's so fast, that it can be very dangerous. So though people need time with these horses to really get to know all their facets and help them through everything, so then they can place them in the home too that is the right type of home. What is this horse going to love doing for the rest of their life? Then let a person say, oh, I would love to do this with a horse for the next 15 years, 20 years, and then match them. But let the horse have a say so first, rather than, oh, this one's beautiful and maybe put together, like I would like, but then you don't know. A relationship takes time, and you are not going to know that horse until you've literally been in a relationship with that horse for a period of time. I would say at least 6 months to really get to know them, in my opinion.
yes, exactly. But again, when the BLM pulls in with
Oh, well, that's another
150 horses
yeah. Well,
with no tools for people, where is the general public? And Mary, at those sales,
yeah.
how many
Oh, I can't.
trainers do
It's
you
so
think are
hard.
there?
Oh,
Like
I know. I went to
a
one.
tiny handful?
I
But you
can't.
have
It's so hard. Yeah, I
families
hear you.
who are coming in. So
I know.
I just feel we have to, if we're not at kind of everywhere, if we are not across the country, out talking outside of the silo that is, you know, the world of wild horse trainers, the beauty of the film festival and the beauty of what we do when we go to bigger events is we're outside of that silo and we're
Mm.
talking to other people and getting
Yes.
other people to look at these horses
I hope
and
those
talk
other
about
people will
these horses.
sponsor. I want those other people to
I,
sponsor.
I, right. There's nobody who would love for people to sponsor more than
That's what
I
I
would.
want.
but
Just sponsor one
it's
horse for 6 months or a year's training.
yes,
That would be
with
the
a
biggest
trainer.
gift you could do.
Yes.
One horse. You would literally change the life of that horse forever and everyone that horse touches, which will be a
The
lot.
rest of its life. Right,
Hmm.
right. And for the world to understand that it's okay not to have to ride that horse. You can still do your liberty. You can do work in hand. You can do ground driving. You can drive that horse. You don't have to feel like you've got to get on that horse. I think that watching that whole change happen is very cool too. Two of my baby horse, or my babies, I say that now they're like 14 and 15. The people who own them go out and love on them. They have young riders that do stuff with the horses, but for the most part, these horses are their mental health tools
Hmm.
after big high tech jobs, pressure jobs. They go and even spend a half an hour an evening with their
Hmm.
horse. It's that connect to that heart rate.
Hmm.
Just let
Hmm.
that happen. Just connect. And
Hmm.
that is that is what the horse does for us, for
Hmm.
humans. Uh,
Hmm.
it- they are here. We have another documentary that just came into the film festival that is about the herd dynamics and working and letting the horse herd heal. It's so cool to watch it all keep coming,
Hmm.
which is what I
Yeah.
love. So
Hmm. Cool. Well, and this is another way that you can reach people. So I love that you're putting the effort into this podcast and series to
yeah.
just help people
Well,
learn
thank you
different
for taking the
perspectives.
time
Yeah,
to
thank you
come
for
in
having me. I
and
appreciate it.
hang out for a little while with me and tell the world about what you're doing and where you're
Yeah.
at and where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. So folks can, the celebration, you can find all that information on our website, which is I Am Herd, and it's herd like a herd of horses, HERD. And that's going to be this October, the 24th, 23rd through the 25th down in North Carolina. And there's lots of really amazing B&Bs all around, so you can make a weekend of it. And then the other event I spoke about, the Horses and Humans Research Foundation, which will be amazing as well, is down in Wellington, Florida in February. And that one's going to be a blast. So I highly recommend people look into both to attend and or to sponsor, because both things are ways that you can contribute to make
I'll
these
put the
things
links
happen.
on the
Yeah, that'd be
underneath
great.
of you. Great.
Yeah, the Horses and Humans Research Foundation link is Horses and Humans is their
Yep.
website.
And Pebbles is amazing. So we love
Yeah,
her.
she's the CEO and runs the whole ship and really is great. Yeah.
Yes. So okay. Well, thank you again, Mary.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate that you took the time to spend
Definitely. Thank you for
some of
having
your day
me.
with us. Okay,
All
we'll
right.
talk
All right. You
soon.
take care.
Okay.
All right. Yes, ma'am.